We are in the first week of PTR testing for keys and raid. I wanted to make a video going over the first impressions of the new dungeon, new raid bosses, and class tuning. The only dungeon available for testing at the moment is the new dungeon, Ecodome Aldani. I would describe this dungeon as an open routing dungeon where very few packs are mandatory to pull, and you can squeeze past almost every pack. I would compare this dungeon to Motherlode, which has several distinct open areas between bosses. The first area is a pretty chill lust pool, with the only real danger being the overgorging mightcasters. However, you can pull between 0 to 4 of them, and none of them are actually required. The second area can be pretty dangerous with these sentinel mobs that send out an instant bolt of damage every 1.5 seconds that can target the same person twice, and also overlap with an instant leap from the fast orca mobs to straight one-shot someone. Kicks are also quite important here on the fast orca mobs, as they have a 3-second cast that does AoE damage. Luckily, it has a long lockout. The last area becomes a lot more cast heavy with multiple casters in every pack. Most of the kicks are bolts, so until the very highest level, it doesn't actually matter that much if you let 1 or 2 through. And something that is annoying in this dungeon is that a lot of the mobs jump and teleport out of the pack on pull. The very last pack of the dungeon is quite difficult. You have 3 casters and 2 mobs that do big AoE damage. It is very scary on pull, and half the time when we pull it, somebody dies in the first 10 seconds. You can split this pull up in 2 though. And also in this zone, there are 3 burrowing mini-bosses that give 5% count each, but are comparable to bubbles in difficulty. They have a big dot, and then a cast that just straight one-shots everyone without a defensive. The bosses in this dungeon are pretty chill. They are not trivially easy, and it is very possible to fail the mechanics on the bosses. However, it is never a full wipe if you fail, and the bosses can be killed even if you're down a member. There is a profession buff in this dungeon. It is a single crystal in the last area that stuns mobs after you channel it. And in the last area, there are these pylons that give you 10% haste for 20 seconds, which is barely any use as it takes so long to get the buff and walk into the pack that you can't really make use of it. For routing in this dungeon, the best routes I've seen are skipping most sentinels and packed speakers. Overall, I think it's an enjoyable dungeon outside of some one-shots. The eye level we are scaled to in this dungeon is 710, which is hero track 6 out of 6, or equivalent of 665 this season. And at this eye level, organized groups are pushing up to 17, maybe 18 or even 19 if they were to optimize the route and classes. We do have the Reshi wraps available, and the proc does about 1.5 to 2% overall for most classes with the boots on. Now to talk about class balance. I think there is one class that is far above all. Marksmanship Hunter is doing a massive amount of AoE, which scales up even more on uncapped pulls, all while doing top single target with frequent 1-minute cooldowns. These come after massive buffs to Dark Ranger this week and the week before. BM Hunter is also doing a lot of damage with a strong pack leader tier set. However, I feel Marksmanship blows everything else out of the water. Balanced Druid is very bugged at the moment, where the Keeper of the Grove tier set buff to Star Surge works on every Star Surge that their new Dryad pet casts, causing insane single target prio 3-minute burst akin to Venthir Druid from the past. When this gets fixed, Boomy should still be pretty good with this tier set, giving them a big burst cooldown even with a single incarn charge, while still bringing Beam and Mark of the Wild. Windwalker is also bugged with their Clone's Fixate cast proccing Flurry Strikes for free. Shadow Priest got a rework and tier set that made it quite overtuned in single target playing Voidweaver, which of course translates to its AoE through Psychic Link. The rework didn't fix this issue, nor did it fix their choice between defensives and interrupt, so I am predicting it to get tuned down, but for now it is quite good. Elemental and Enhancement Shaman are both looking to do strong damage with very high burst if you save up stacks of the Stormbringer tier to get well-timed Descendants procs. Arcane Mage is still looking to have very strong damage and funnel, and most other DPS are actually looking good. I've seen big numbers from Havoc DH, Destrolock, Survival Hunter, and more. I can't really name many classes that actively look bad right now. Rogue isn't in the best spot though, and DK is only just clawing at the bottom of the meter after an underwhelming rework and not so great tier sets. In terms of tanks, they didn't do any changes to VDH yet, so it is most likely staying in its current position until it gets some nerfs. I have heard good things about Brewmaster, and I have seen some pretty good damage for them, but I'm not sure if it's enough. For healer balance, Resto Druid definitely has the most throughput in dungeons right now with a strong Wildstalker tier set, although again, Disc is basically unchanged from last season, so I am expecting things to be much the same for tanks and healers in their current state. Balancing overall is looking quite good though, and a lot of classes have new fun and powerful options in their tier sets, and everything will hopefully be brought in line in the next few weeks. Now to look at the raid testing they did. They were intending to test every boss on Heroic, but after a long server outage and a character wipe on Thursday, they cancelled the testing for the first 3 bosses. What was tested was the full raid in normal and boss 4 to 7 on Heroic. The early bosses seem quite simple. First boss seems to be a single target boss with a gauntlet style intermission. Second boss is single target with a frontal soak and Eranog wall. Third boss has some adds that you assumedly will choose the order in which you break them out. The fourth boss is a big ad boss that has constant spawning ads on top of the boss, and also also an elemental that you need to spread cleave, and then an intermission where you go around the room killing these spread out pylons, and this all results in a double damage phase on the boss after that. At 25%, the boss goes to phase 2 that has an ever increasing suck towards the edge of the room, which eventually makes it to such a strength that some classes cannot even outrun it. The 5th boss is a stacked 3 target boss with a lot of iconic Demon Hunter abilities being remade into mechanics, and most likely a preview of an upcoming DH spec. It is definitely an optional boss, which is a controversial choice. It does drop the boots that buff the cloak as extra loot, most likely 1 per 10 players. However, the boots are not powerful enough, and this will probably not make the boss worth investing time into on Mythic. The 6th boss is likely a single target check where you play a Tetris-like game. The room is split into 6 and players will get a debuff that launches a wall into the segment they are in. Then players will get a debuff to clear walls in the segment they are in. If too many walls are deposited in one segment, then the boss will enrage. 7th boss is a multi-phase fight with a lot of mechanics reminiscent of past bosses, like Sarkareth Phase 1 stacks, split raid platforms, a Kaveza suck, and Kurog's expanding earth circles. And of course, Dementius is not being tested, but I could use Farsight to find the phase 1 platform, which appears to be sized like a normal boss fight would. There is a lot of trash in this raid, a lot of trash. Overall, it sounds like the fights are being well received though, and I was enjoying the testing. To talk about raid balancing, there are a few clear winners in raid at the moment. Looking at public logs, we have Marksmanship, BM, and Shadow all far up at the top, and I am expecting big nerfs to these 3 specs. Boomy and Windwalker are looking good, but again, they are bugged and will likely get fixed. Other specs that are looking alright are Dev, Havoc, Enhance, and then at the bottom, Rogues and Warriors are looking pretty bad overall. And then there's DK. I haven't seen many mechanics where grip would actually be useful for. Unless there is an add or a mythic mechanic we haven't seen yet, there is not an overwhelming use for grips like they said there would be. For raid healing, Preservoker is again looking to be putting out massive bursts of healing with Engulf, Consume Flame. There is a log where an Evoker is doing 10 mil HPS, counting overhealing. And then it looks like Mistweaver is doing the highest damage out of healers. Again, this PTR is definitely not in a bad spot. It feels more balanced and complete than some previous PTRs. I'm hoping for some good balance changes, bug fixes, and utility nerfs in the next few weeks because I feel like they are close to a well-balanced season. Next week, we have the 4 War Within dungeons being tested. That is Floodgate, Priory, Arakara, and Dawnbreaker. There is no scheduled raid testing because it's going to be 4th of July next week, and Blizzard is an American company. Now, this video is a bit of an experiment, so please leave a comment if you like this format and think I should do a weekly PTR recap on the changes they do every week.